sometimes he may open your eyes to one thing 1 year, and then it takes 2 more years to get back to it and reveal more information about it. And that's how it's been with this Eve and Lilith thing. It's been years now, where he'll take me back over time and give me little bits and pieces of it, of the information he knows I want, knows I want to know all this stuff. But that's what he had said last time when I had posted that on my blogger about Lilith. He said, she is a separate creation. She's a separate creation. So I don't think that she can come back to Earth as this, with Sananda and Maitreya, as this Mary. I don't think she's Mary. I think Eve is Mary. And so that's where I'm at with that. Lilith, she did come to Earth. She went before one of the kings, I think it's in 1st or 2nd Kings, where she disguised herself as a prostitute with some other woman. I don't know the exact place that happened in, but she has appeared on Earth, and she also is the one behind the whole folklore of incubus and succubus, about men having wet dreams because they're raped in the middle of the night. She's behind that. She's also behind crib deaths, where she'll kill children, and she's behind a lot of hideous things, and so that's kind of her realm, She kind of works and she's just evil and wicked. She works in that kind of a realm, and so I try to differentiate. Am I wrong about Eve? It's all just Lilith, and Lilith doesn't, But the more I just dwell on it, I pray the Lord, I ask Him for the truth and all things and stuff. This whole thing about Eve just keeps coming back and back, and it wasn't a mistake that somebody would send me a scripture the other day in Enoch 69:6, talking about how Eve had been led astray again, because I know she was. She was led astray again. By the time she died, look what happened to Solomon. Look at Solomon, because you have to think, where did this come from? And if you don't think Ham was bad enough, what he did to Noah, and him turning on the Lord and his own father like that, look at Solomon, because he is one of the greatest heroes of Freemasonry today. Did you know that? Did you have any idea that the greatest man on earth that had the most wisdom on earth, given wisdom directly from God, he was known as the wisest king on earth at his time. He was also used by the Lord to build his temple, something David wasn't allowed to do because of sins David had committed. It was passed on to his generation. It was passed on to Solomon, and Solomon was the one who was able to rise and build the Lord's temple. And then he changed. Satan got a hold of him. He had married all these women that were into worshiping demons and pagan gods and idols, and had started worshiping them as well. And what he did, and what the churches don't tell you, is that he had taken the Lord's temple that he had built and had erected all of statues to all these pagan gods, all these demons that his wives worshipped. And so he had also stored a lot of gold in his temple, and he also had written a book on how to conjure up demons. I believe I can't remember the name of the Book of the Dead, or the Book of Necromancy. It was one of those two that Solomon had written, and it's basically one of the tools of Satanists today. In fact, it's almost like secondhand to Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible, because most Satanists, if they have that book, they're going to have Solomon's book that he had written, about necromancy, because what it is all these spells and rituals on how to raise up demons. And so this temple that Solomon had originally built for the Lord became a den of devils. It's just really, disgusting. And he's one of the biggest heroes of Freemasonry. You always hear about Solomon, and you're thinking, our Solomon? And you get into study this stuff, and it's mind-boggling. But Google this stuff. Do this research on yourself. Study Solomon, because there's a lot more to his temple, and this is the temple that they want to rebuild for the last days. Because it was such a den of devils and thieves, and Solomon's heart had gone so far from the Lord He had over 700 wives, whereas David had over 500. But yeah, his heart had totally turned away from the Lord. And that's exactly what happened to Eve. And so I'm thinking, that's where, the seed was planted from, probably from her, because she had turned away from the Lord. And then you see Ham turning away, becoming the wicked son of Noah. And then you have Solomon just becoming one of the most wicked kings, going from the wisest king on earth to one of the most wicked. And so it's just mind-boggling how people and how these people have changed during their lives here on earth. You start out for the Lord, and then you just they get deceived and they fall into apostasy and they fall away from the Lord. And that's one of the biggest signs of the end of the age itself, was apostasy and false Christ coming. Because we're going to see that again. We're going to see Cain arriving as Maitreya. We're going to see Eve arriving as Mary. We're going to see Satan arriving as Jesus. And that's why I admonish everybody all the time to use his real name. His real name was Yehoshua ben David. Or ben Joseph, I'm sorry. Yehoshua ben Joseph. And somehow they got Jesus out of that. Out of honor to Zeus, no doubt. Translated in the Greek and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into it. But his real name is Yahushua. And those who know the Lord will call upon him by his real name. And once you learn his name, call him by it. Because it will really nip it in the butt when this Jesus arrives. And no one's fooled by it, because everybody knows his name is Yahushua, and he would never call himself Jesus. And so nobody is fooled by this fool that comes. But that's not going to be the case, because the church is going to be so angry at the elect for refusing to accept this Jesus, that they'll be having them arrested. We're going to have the whole Russian KGB thing here. Everybody spies on everybody else. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to be turning us into the courts and the police because we're not worshiping Jesus as the Messiah. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't worship Jesus. I worship Yahushua, the Son of God. I'm not fooled by the name. I'm not fooled by the name change. That's what they tried to do 2,000 years ago when they switched his name from Yahushua to Jesus, because they wanted to fool everybody, and they had this huge mind control conditioning thing underway and brainwashing thing where they figure for 2,000 years they can get everybody in the church believing that his name was Jesus and never knowing otherwise. When Satan comes and his own name is Jesus, one of his names because it's Zeus, so we're taken from Zeus, then we've got them. They've got us. Joke's on us, and now they've got our souls, and we've all been worshiping Satan all these years. But we're letting the cat out of the bag, we're just stopping it cold. The deception stops here, it stops now. We know his real name, we're not playing those games anymore. We're not playing your religious mind control anymore. We're not in your apostate churches anymore. We're walking away, we're saying enough is enough. If you're not going to preach the truth, we're not going to listen to your lies. And that's why so many leaving the churches today. I know pastors leaving their churches because they can't, they're being laughed out of their congregations for their speaking the truth. And so they're leaving the churches, going back to home churches until they can get their own churches built. I'll start all over again. Because you know what, it is a very serious thing, folks. If you are in a position of leadership to be teaching apostasy, and if you are in a sun god church, you are in apostasy. You are in apostasy. And some people think, well, it's only one commandment. You know what? The Lord said you break one, you're guilty of breaking them all. And we're supposed to strive to be like him. We're supposed to strive to be like him, which means we're always supposed to be trying to be perfect like he is. And following his 10 commandments. And he said, well, but I don't steal, and I don't lie, and I haven't murdered anybody, and yeah, but are you keeping the Sabbath day holy? Are you honoring the seventh day? And it always comes back to that, because it's the one thing the Lord always brings me back to, is to bring his people back to him. Back to him. And if you want to be back to him and with him, and quit kidding yourself that you're with him when you're not, it starts with the 10 Commandments, folks. It starts with not only accepting that he